Hello and welcome to day 6 in my coverage of the Louise Borglit case. This is the case where a young woman was killed while walking her dog. Back in 2016, she was stabbed 11 times. One of those stabs cut off her nose, and that's pretty important for the prosecution's case today, because this is some evidence that were never talked about in the papers, and I'll come back to that. But again, this woman was out walking her dog in this area in a town called Herlev near Copenhagen in Denmark. This is a park, but in a densely populated area. And she was stabbed to death, as I told you, 11 times. One person saw somebody leaving the place, and we have a suspect in the trial, on trial and has been for 6 days. And this case is very unique in Danish court history because all the evidence in this case is an undercover agent who joined this suspect in the prison. He had secret recordings of their talks in prison. After some days, they had surveillance equipment put into the suspect's cell that could monitor him talking as well. There are no other evidence that directly points to this suspect. There are no technical evidence, no DNA, no murder weapon, no marks on the body, and the murder victim and the suspect has no connections. In Denmark, as in many other countries, murder are usually between people who know each other. This case is all about these secret surveillance tapes that the undercover agent made while in prison. They put him in prison with this suspect. The suspect was serving 8 years for the attempted murder of an ex-girlfriend, and the police have had some interest in him before. They had a talk with him before, but they haven't charged him in this case. But they put this undercover agent in who befriended him in prison. They were able to go to the yard together, make food together. Their cells were next to each other so they could talk. And the agent was with him for 3 weeks in prison. And as the agent tells today in court, they were friendly. They were buddies. And when he left the prison, the suspect has said that he wanted to beat up this undercover agent. He made him mad because he was always talking about this murder in Herlev. And the police agent said, well, I heard about some concerns my handler had about me, but I didn't experience anything like that. But they spent 3 weeks together in this prison. This is the Danish Supermax prison. And the last couple of days in court has been about this undercover agent and his recordings. And everything he has is, in my opinion, circumstantial. There are some talks about how you should stab somebody, and that this girl fell on the ground and had her nose cut off, which, as I said in the start, was not public knowledge that she had her nose cut off. But when the suspect was interrogated in court, he said, well, I'm trying to be interesting because this undercover agent had a cover story that he'd killed somebody in Portugal and got away with it. So I just tried to act tough like him. And he was talking a lot about how it's important to not know your murder victim if you want to get away with it, and that the police were amateurs because they hadn't found the right guy. And all of this is sort of maybe indicative of some knowledge in this case. But here, there's nowhere in the tapes where he's saying, yes, I did it. I killed that woman. There's a lot of talk about he doesn't like women. He likes to degrade women. He's not a nice person. He has a lot of prior conviction. He has psychological problems. He has drug problems. But there's nowhere in the tapes where you can say, this is the smoking gun. This man did it. He had, when he was interrogated, a lot of explanations about, well, I learned something from other people. There's a lot of murderers in the prison. They told me about it. At some point, he said her nose was cut off. That made it a Serbian killing because Serbs do that. Then he said it was somebody who's in a detention center we have for people who are extradited, to be extradited from Denmark. So he had explanations. You can say, well, is it enough to raise reasonable doubt in this case? And that would be interesting to see where the judges come down on this case, because for me personally, it's hard to say there is a smoking gun. We have the talks in this prison, and when he's later moved to another prison and the undercover agent has been released from prison, they get back in contact, and the undercover agent visits him in prison, where he talks about after he made the murder here in Herlev. A couple of days later, he checks himself into a mental hospital in this town called Ballerup, and when he's waiting to be admitted in the mental hospital, he takes the murder weapon. He has the knife with him, the murder weapon knife, wraps it in paper and throws it in a wastebasket. And that's his explanation on the undercover tapes. In court, he said, well, that's just something I said. I had a knife with me, but it wasn't this knife. And I don't know how your wastebaskets are, but in a public waiting room, if you throw something as heavy as a knife down to it, wouldn't the janitor notice when he pulls it out? I don't know, but that's sort of kind of the only explanation of what happened to the murder weapon. This story has a lot of explanations around the murder time, what he was doing. He was, in one explanation, he was near the murder site. Another, he was up here in Bauswær. And another, he was eating with a friend who was a drug dealer, so he can't name him. But can the police place him at the scene? That would be very interesting. We know the police agent who talked to him in Emmermark and in this prison, Herstedvester. No, it's not Herstedvester. Nørre Snede prison. They talked, and the police agent felt like he admitted to doing it. But is that enough to erase reasonable doubt? We'll have to follow the case and see. The next time in court, defense should be able to interrogate the undercover agent. It was supposed to be today, but as they do in most cases, the court ran a little bit late. So hopefully the defense will be talking to the undercover agent. And I think their main line of defense would be, did you pressure him to talk about it? Did your story make him feel important if he tried to say he did the same as you? That's my belief, that is the story they're gonna go with. I don't know, but we'll have to see the next time in court. But I'll be following along, and I hope you'll be following along too. If not, still thank you very much for showing up. Bye.